Hello, everybody. Back with just a quick addendum on video 35 in this set. Um, this is the 35th video, so if you're watching this, there's a lot going on. Otherwise, I'm going to kind of skip over the introduction here. In the previous one, we added a cutscene for when the game over happened, and I went ahead and drew up a cutscene for the uh, the victory situation after a boss fight, even though we haven't done the boss fight yet. But after the boss fight, the character's going to stand on the hill and watch the ship crash, and there's absolutely nothing new going on here. In the script, it really was a copy of the previous script. I guess I changed the name of the Game Over script, so I did change the name on that one. But I took that script, and actually I copied the whole scene. So I just made a copy of the script, uh, um, copied it over, uh, made it take a little bit longer so the animation looked good, and adjusted those a little bit and did a spinning thing so it looks like the ship's crashing. And then to give the impression of smoke, all I did is just throw in this little mesh cylinder, uh, and I set it up to a good size. Just kind of tried some random numbers till I got a good size. And then for material, I ignored the color and everything else. So I didn't do. I just created a new material. Um, I just went down to a new standard material, and then I came down and gave it a normal map. And all I did is apply a texture on a normal map, kind of like we did for the water earlier. I just do a fast noise, and I think it's almost in the default settings. I just put that on there, and it's like, okay, that works for the smoke and the rough draft. So just a cylinder with uh, a normal map and no color or any other material data in it. Made parts of it transparent, and it worked. I figured it looked good enough for the rough draft of smoke in the ship crash. Otherwise, it's pretty much just an exact copy of the previous one, and the message on the text obviously changed the message at the end of the game. But so nothing fancy there, and that's what'll happen after our boss fight. So now we have the cutscene, so we just need to um, finish up our aliens in the game playable playability area, and then create a boss fight, and then this will run after the boss fight. And since this is just a really short addendum, I do want to add one more thing here to the HUD, not really any, or to the main level, and that's a HUD to see a score, because as we beat up aliens, we'll get a point for everyone we beat up. So might as well see that on the screen somewhere. And again, it's stuff we've already seen. I'll just create a new text node. Um, I usually go with the text edit. I'm not sure. I guess it doesn't really make a difference. I'll stretch that out a little, find a good size, and in the 2D view, we kind of have an outline of what our scene's going to look like, and that is consistent across all our game engines. You'll have, um, in all of our game engines, you'll just put the things into the hierarchy, the built-in interface pieces, put them in the hierarchy, and you'll get a 2D view that kind of shows where they're laid out in the scene. And usually there's more than one option. Um, you almost always have to bring in your own font. The fonts that come with them usually aren't very good. And I want this one to say score. Um, and under theme overrides, I'll just bring in that same font I use for the messages, and um, 22. How's that look? If we preview the game, we should see that on there. There we go, and that gives us a score message. I guess doesn't really need to be that big, or I could add some padding around it. There's a padding option, but for this, I'm just gonna come down and hit space a couple times. That'll work. So what was that? Line break, 1, 2 spaces, and then the words. That'll be important. And now we just need to print that out from the character script. So over in the script for the player, where we're keeping track of our score, which that's the only number we have, but I went ahead and set that up as JSON data, one of the standard formats. all of our game engines have their own custom format for saving the data, and over the years I found it's better to just go with a standard format or one of the normal data structures that you would typically use in programming, and it's easier to keep track of. And like, we're making this game in Godot, but if we decide to do the final draft in Unreal, the rough draft in Godot, if we decide to do the final draft in Unreal, having all of our data in JSON as a JSON moves over a lot better. Or if you start in Unreal and decide it's way too much for a bit of overkill for the game you're making, back it off to Godot, and normal data structures transfer a lot better that way. So once we get our score, we can just display it somewhere. I'll just add it in here before we move. After all the selection structures, we're getting ready to move. We can just get a reference to our text edit here. Probably could have given it a name. I'll call it a HUD. Get a reference to our heads up display. I'll just click and drag that in like we've been doing. And then down here, we can just say HUD.text. We can see over here, there's a text property, I guess, for consistency. So HUD.something, and then we can look at the inspector like we've been doing. We want the text property, just copy the property value, paste that in, if you didn't just automatically guess what that was. And we want that to be a line break. I think I put 2 spaces in there, then the word score, and concatenate on our stats and grab the score key from our stats. So nothing too fancy there. This language is based on Python, so we would convert that or use some formatting. Formatting in Godot is a little bit odd. I thought it uses the percent sign a lot. It's not bad, but it's something to check the documentation on. I'm just gonna, since we just have an integer, I'm just gonna turn it into a string and do like a Python thing. But if you have a floating point number, just check the docs on how to format it. You use multiple percent signs, and it took me some getting used to, but in general, it'll follow suit from like Python stuff. So that'll put our score on the screen. So then when we run around, what is going on? I'm not really sure what happened with the controls got a little funky there for a second. We'll sneak up behind our aliens and hit them with a stick. And that'll increment our score. So now we're ready to have lots of aliens on here. Oh, I did forget. I do not want that to be editable. So now we're ready to have lots of aliens on here. Get our score. If the aliens capture us, I'll walk up to the front side of this one. We get captured and dragged off to the ship to some unknown fate. A reset button in the future might be good. And then also a victory cutscene for after we make the boss scene. So all that's left is to move our aliens around, and get our aliens moving. So a navigation mesh, and then make a whole bunch of duplicates of the aliens, and then create the boss scene. So the game's getting really close now, but not really anything new in this one at all. Actually, most of the stuff that was done was a copy and paste from somewhere else, and things almost in default value, and just moved, actually printed our score up so that now everything does show up in the graphics of our game. So let's finish out those last 2 things, the aliens wandering around our world, and then a boss fight so that we can win the game. I'll see you in the next video.